Imagine a trade war so wild it could turn allies into rivals overnight, billions on the line, tariff skyrocketing, and one man at the center of it all, Donald Trump. Welcome to Story-Driven English, where today we're diving into the jaw-dropping saga of Trump's 46% tariff on Vietnam, a move that's shaking economies and rewriting history. Stick around to find out if this is a masterstroke or a misstep, all while boosting your English with a story you won't forget. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss a second of this epic tale. Let's get started. Chapter 1. A Tale of Trade and Triumph. Trump, Vietnam, and the Art of the Deal. Let me take you on a little journey, a story of two nations, once foes, now friends, navigating the choppy waters of trade under the watchful eye of a certain golden-haired dealmaker. Picture this. It's April 2025, and I'm sitting here sipping my coffee, reflecting on how the U.S. and Vietnam went from battlefield rivals to strategic partners, all while Donald Trump, our fearless leader, steers the ship with his signature America First swagger. Buckle up, because this tale's got diplomacy, dollars, and a dash of good old Republican humor. It all started way back when, well, not that far back, just 1995, when the U.S. and Vietnam decided to bury the hatchet and shake hands instead. From the ashes of war rose a partnership that's been blooming like a magnolia in springtime. Fast forward to 2023, and bam, we've got ourselves a comprehensive strategic partnership. Fancy title, right? It's like the diplomatic equivalent of going steady politics, economics, security, even some cultural chit-chat over pho and burgers. By 2025, we're toasting 30 years of this bromance, and it's been a wild ride. Vietnam's become a key player in America's Indo-Pacific playbook, and the U.S.? Well, we're Vietnam's biggest export market. It's a match made in free market heaven. Now, here's where the plot thickens and where Trump, the maestro of MAGA, steps in. Trade between the U.S. and Vietnam has been booming since the bilateral trade agreement of 2001. Vietnam's shipping over everything from sneakers to smartphones, and the numbers are eye-popping. Bilateral trade soared, but there's a catch. America's buying way more than we're selling. In 2024, the trade deficit hit $123.5 billion, yep, billion with a B, and it's been hovering around that mark for a while. To a guy like me, a proud Republican who'd follow Trump into a tariff war blindfolded, that's not just a number. It's a call to action. Enter Trump, stage right, with his America First playbook tucked under his arm. He's been saying it since day one. Past trade deals screwed us over, shipped jobs overseas, and left American workers holding the bag. And honestly, he's got a point. Nobody negotiates like our guy. So, when he saw that deficit with Vietnam, he didn't just shrug and sip a Diet Coke. Nope, he slapped a 46% tariff on Vietnamese goods faster than you can say, art of the deal. Bold. Sure. Controversial? You bet. But as a red-blooded Trump fan, I'm here for it. It's about fairness. Folks leveling the playing field so American workers aren't stuck eating imported rice while Vietnam's cashing in. Of course, the naysayers probably sipping lattes in some coastal elite cafe are clutching their pearls. Oh no, this'll tank our relationship with Vietnam, they cry. Economic chaos. Regional instability. Relax, I say, cracking a grin. Trump's not here to burn bridges. He's here to build better ones. That 46% tariff? It's not a punishment, it's a wake-up call. Vietnam's been riding high, and good for them, they've earned it. But Trump's just asking for a little reciprocity, a nod to the "you scratch my back, I scratch yours" philosophy that's kept America great. Plus, let's be real, Vietnam's tough. They've survived worse than a tariff hike. They'll adapt, maybe even start buying more American beef or Boeing jets. Win-win, right? Now, I did a little digging because who doesn't love a good fact check? And turns out Vietnam's exports to the U.S. are still chugging along, even with the tariff talk heating up. Textiles, electronics, furniture, you name it, they're making it. But here's the kicker. Trump's not wrong about the imbalance. The U.S. imported $135 billion worth of goods from Vietnam in 2024, while we sent back a measly $11 billion. That's not a trade deal. That's a garage sale where we're the only ones buying. So when Trump says, "Let's make it fair," I'm nodding along like a bobblehead on a dashboard. Picture this next chapter. Vietnam's leaders, sharp as ever, sit down with Trump's team. Maybe they're in Hanoi, maybe Mar-a-Lago, who knows? Over some strong Vietnamese coffee or a Trump-branded steak, they hash it out. Vietnam tweaks its trade practices, opens up to more U.S. goods, and those tariffs? They ease off as the deficit shrinks. The partnership doesn't just survive, it thrives. Because that's the Trump way. Tough love today, prosperity tomorrow. And me. I'm just here, cheering from the sidelines, proud to back a president who's got the guts to shake things up. So, here we are in 2025, watching this story unfold. The U.S. and Vietnam, once at odds, now navigating a new era of trade tango. Sure, the tariff's a curveball, but it's not the end, it's a plot twist. And with Trump at the helm, I've got a hunch it'll all work out just fine. After all, he's the guy who turned deal-making into an art form, and I wouldn't bet against him for all the foe in Hanoi. Chapter 2, Trump's engagement with Vietnam, analyzing past statements and actions. Alright folks, let's pick up where we left off in this grand saga of tariffs, Trump, and a little Southeast Asian nation that's tougher than a $2 steak. Last time, we talked about how the U.S. and Vietnam went from wartime foes to trade buddies, only for Donald Trump, our deal-making hero, to throw a 46% tariff curveball in 2025. Now, let's rewind a bit and zoom in on Trump's tango with Vietnam during his first term, then fast forward to see how this latest move fits into the bigger picture. Spoiler alert, as a card-carrying Republican who'd cheer Trump on through a hurricane, I'm still loving every minute of this story. Back in his first go-round as president, 2017 to 2021, Trump didn't just sit in the Oval Office tweeting about Covfefe, though he did that too. He hopped on Air Force One and jetted off to Vietnam, not once, but twice. First up was November 2017, when he swaggered into Da Nang for the APEC summit, then popped over to Hanoi for some bilateral chit-chat. The man was all smiles, shaking hands, and soaking in the vibes of a country that's come a long way since the 70s. Then, in February 2019, he was back in Hanoi for the big U.S.-North Korea summit with Kim Jong-un. Say what you will, but hosting that shindig put Vietnam on the global stage, and Trump knew it. These visits weren't just photo ops. They showed he saw Vietnam as a rising star in the Asia-Pacific, a key piece in America's chess game against bigger players like China. And the deals. Oh, the deals. During that 2017 trip, Trump and Vietnam inked new trade agreements worth over $12 billion. That's billion with a B, folks, enough to make any Republican's heart skip a beat. Joint statements were all sunshine and rainbows, promising a stronger partnership built on mutual respect and shared interests. It was like watching two buddies high-five over a cold beer, except with more suits and less barstool banter. For a guy like me, who thinks Trump's the best thing since sliced bread, it was proof he could charm the socks off anyone, even a former rival. But here's where the plot gets juicy. Even as he was slapping backs and signing deals, Trump wasn't shy about calling out the elephant in the room, that pesky trade deficit. He once quipped that Vietnam was one of the worst abusers of U.S. trade, ouch, right? He even threw in a comparison to China, which, let's be honest, is the gold standard of Trump trade gripes. Some might call it harsh, but I call it classic Trump, straight talk with a side of swagger. He wasn't wrong, either the numbers don't lie. Vietnam's been shipping goods to the U.S. like it's Black Friday every day, while our exports to them barely fill a cargo container. To me, that's not a partnership, it's a one-way street. And Trump? He's the guy with the guts to pave a new road. Fast forward to April 2025, and here we are with that 46% tariff bombshell. It's not out of the blue, it's Trump doubling down on his America First promise. But the timing? Oh, it's spicier than a bowl of pho with extra chili. Word on the street is that China's big boss, Xi Jinping, is gearing up for a visit to Vietnam right around now. Cue the gasps from the Hanoi Peanut Gallery. A geopolitical blunder, they cry. This tariff's gonna push Vietnam into China's arms. I can't help but chuckle. Look, I get it, nobody wants to see Beijing cozying up to our pals in Hanoi. But let's not kid ourselves. Trump's not playing checkers here, he's playing 3D chess. Think about it. That tariff's a wake-up call, not a breakup letter. Hey, Vietnam, we love ya, but let's make this fair. Sure, some locals are miffed, and yeah, Xi might try to swoop in with his panda diplomacy. But Vietnam's no pushover, they've been dodging China's shadow for centuries. Plus, Trump's got a knack for turning tough love into big wins. Remember those $12 billion deals? That's the carrot. The tariff's the stick. My bet. Vietnam's leaders will grumble, then get to the table. Maybe they'll buy more American soybeans or F-150s, who knows. Point is, Trump's not wrecking this partnership. He's renegotiating it, MAGA style. So here we sit, April 2025, watching the next act unfold. The tariff's got folks buzzing, Xi's packing his bags, and Trump's probably grinning over a well-done steak at Mar-a-Lago. Me. I'm just a happy Republican, sipping my coffee and rooting for the guy who's never afraid to shake things up. Vietnam and the U.S. have come too far to let a little trade spat derail them, and with Trump calling the shots, I'd wager this story's headed for a blockbuster ending. Pass the popcorn, or better yet, the pho. Chapter 3. A historical perspective on U.S.-Vietnam relations, examining the evolution of diplomatic and economic ties. All right, folks, let's take a step back, way back to the roots of this U.S.-Vietnam saga, because every good story needs a solid origin tale. Picture me, your friendly Republican narrator, kicking back with a sweet tea, ready to weave this history into our ongoing Trump-tastic adventure. We've already covered the tariff tango and Trump's first-term charm offensive, so now let's rewind to the 19th century, sprinkle in some war and peace, and tie it all together with a MAGA bow. Trust me, it's a wild ride, and I'm here to make it fun. So, the U.S. and Vietnam go way back, like 1800s back, when things were more about ships and trade than bombs and battles. But the honeymoon didn't last. By the time France came knocking, looking to colonize Vietnam, the U.S. basically said, "Sorry, not our circus, not our monkeys," and left the Vietnamese kingdom hanging. Fast forward to World War II, and we're suddenly pals again, secretly, of course. The U.S. slipped some support to the Viet Minh to kick the Japanese out of French Indochina. Sneaky, right? But after the war, when France's colonial gig fell apart in 1954, the U.S. picked a side: South Vietnam, the capitalist underdog, against the communist North. Cue the Vietnam War, messy, brutal, and a whole lot of history we won't unpack here. Let's just say it ended with the U.S. pulling out in 1973, Saigon falling in 75, and Uncle Sam slapping a trade embargo on Vietnam faster than you can say, "Goodbye, Hanoi." 4 years, it was radio silence, think Cold War vibes with a side of grudge. But then came Bill Clinton in the 90s, playing peacemaker. In 1994, he lifted that 30-year trade embargo, big move, even if some sanctions lingered like a bad hangover. By 1995, embassies were popping up, and the US and Vietnam were officially back in the game. Now, I'm no Clinton fan, give me a Reagan or a Trump any day, but credit where it's due, that normalization set the stage for something special. From there, it's been an upward climb, especially on the economic front. Enter the Bilateral Trade Agreement, BTA. In 2001, a game changer. Tariffs on Vietnamese goods dropped from a hefty 40% to a breezy 3%, and Vietnam promised to play fairer with American businesses. By 2007, we gave them permanent normal trade relations, PNTR, status as they waltzed into the WTO. Trade skyrocketed, hitting nearly $124 billion by 2023. And that same year, boom, comprehensive strategic partnership. It's like the US and Vietnam went from exes to besties with benefits. Now, let's zoom back to 2025, where our hero, Donald Trump, is shaking things up with that 46% tariff. Some might see it as a plot twist, but me? I see it as the next chapter in a story that's been building for decades. Sure, the US and Vietnam have had their ups and downs, war, embargo, the works, but look at us now. Trade partners, strategic allies, and still figuring out the dance steps. That deficit, though $123.5 billion in 2024, sticks in Trump's craw, and mine too. As a proud Republican, I'm all in for his America First fix. Back in the day, we let Vietnam's exports flood in cheap and easy thanks, BTA, but Trump saying, time to balance the books. And who can blame him? The guy's got a nose for a deal sharper than a bloodhound's. Here's the fun part. This tariff isn't the end of the road, it's a detour. Vietnam's come too far, from fighting off empires to joining the WTO, to let a little trade spat derail them. And Trump? He's not here to burn bridges, he's here to build them stronger, just with better terms. Picture this. A few years from now, Vietnam's buying more American goods, maybe some Harley-Davidsons or Iowa corn, and that deficit's shrinking. The partnership's not just intact, it's thriving. That's the Trump magic I'm betting on. Critics might whine about geopolitics or China lurking in the wings, but I say, relax, grab a burger, and watch the master work. After all, this is the guy who turned a reality TV gig into the presidency, handling Vietnam's a walk in the park. So here we are, April 2025, with a history that's wilder than a rodeo and a future that's looking bright thanks to Trump's bold moves. From 19th century snubs to 21st century tariffs, the US and Vietnam have danced a crazy jig. And me? I'm just a happy patriot, tipping my hat to a president who's got the guts to keep America first, one deal at a time. Next stop, prosperity for both sides. Who's with me? Chapter 4, the newly imposed 46% tariff, unpacking the details. Well, folks, here we are again, me, your trusty Republican storyteller, sipping my coffee and ready to dive into the latest chapter of this US-Vietnam epic. We've journeyed from 19th century snubs to wartime woes, from Clinton's olive branch to Trump's tariff tango. Now it's April 2025, and the big man himself, Donald Trump, just dropped a bombshell. A 46% tariff on 90% of Vietnam's exports to the U.S., set to kick in on April 9th. Buckle up, because this plot twist's got more layers than a 7-layer dip, and as a Trump-loving patriot, I'm here to break it down with a grin and a nod to the genius of America First. Let's set the scene. Vietnam's been shipping us everything: textiles, shoes, furniture, electronics, you name it. It's probably got a Made in Vietnam sticker. And Trump? He's not having it. On April 3, 2025, he announced this tariff whopper, covering about 90% of what Vietnam sends our way. The White House says it's all about reciprocal tariffs, a fancy way of saying, you tax us, we tax you back, but fairer. See, Trump's team claims Vietnam's slapping up to 90% tariffs on American goods. So, 46%. That's practically a discount, folks, a half-off sale on trade justice. I can almost hear Trump chuckling, "I'm the best negotiator, believe me," as he signs the order under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, calling the trade deficit a national security threat. Bold. You bet. Brilliant. As a MAGA fan, I'm nodding so hard my head might fall off. Now, let's talk impact. Vietnam's big hitters, textiles, footwear, furniture, electronics, are in the crosshairs. No specific list yet, but those industries are sweating bullets. Imagine a Hanoi factory worker stitching sneakers, wondering if his next paycheck's heading stateside or staying home. It's tough, sure, but here's where I tip my hat to Trump. He's not just swinging a hammer, he's carving out exceptions like a master sculptor. Steel, aluminum. Cars already taxed under Section 232? They're safe. Copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. Lumber? Off the hook too. That semiconductor bit's a gem. Vietnam's stepping up in the chip game, and Trump's keeping that door open. Smart move, if you ask me. Keeps the high-tech bromance alive while fixing the deficit mess. Why's he doing this? Simple. That trade gap's a beast, $123.5 billion in 2024, and Trump's tired of America playing the generous uncle. He's been railing against unfair trade since his first campaign, and Vietnam's caught his eye. Currency manipulation? Heck. High tariffs on U.S. goods? Double check. The guy's got a point. Why should American workers lose out while Vietnam's raking it in? As a Republican who'd follow Trump to the ends of the earth, I see this as pure genius. It's not about punishing Vietnam, it's about leveling the field. They've had a sweet deal since the BTA slashed their tariffs to 3% back in 2001. Meanwhile, we're over here paying through the nose. Trump's just saying, time to share the love. Of course, the hand-wringers are out in force. Oh no, Vietnam's economy will tank. China's gonna swoop in. I can't help but laugh. Vietnam's tougher than a $2 steak. They've survived wars, embargoes, and worse. They'll figure this out. And Trump? He's not torching the partnership, he's renegotiating it, MAGA style. Picture this. Vietnam tweaks its tariffs, starts buying more American stuff, maybe some Ford trucks or Kansas wheat, and that 46% eases off. The deficit shrinks, jobs stay home, and we're all singing Sweet Home Alabama over a trade deal that works. That's the Trump I know. Tough today, winning tomorrow. So, as April 9th looms, I'm sitting here, grinning like a kid on Christmas. This tariff's not the end, it's a plot twist in a story that's been brewing since the 1800s. From war to peace, embargo to embrace, the U.S. and Vietnam have danced a wild jig. Now, with Trump at the helm, it's a new beat, one where America comes first, but the dance floor's still open. Me. I'm just a happy patriot, cheering for a president who's got the guts to shake things up. Next chapter? Prosperity for both sides, with a side of Trump swagger. Who's ready for the encore? Chapter 5, Reactions from Vietnam. Government responses and the sentiments of Vietnamese businesses. Alright, folks, grab your popcorn or maybe a bowl of pho, because the U.S.-Vietnam saga just got a whole lot juicier. I'm back, your cheerful Republican narrator, ready to spin the latest twist in this tariff tale. Trump's dropped his 46% bombshell on 90% of Vietnam's exports, and Hanoi's not exactly throwing a party. But as a die-hard Trump fan, I'm here to tell you why this is all part of the master plan and why I'm still grinning like a kid with a new toy. Let's dive into Vietnam's reaction, their hustle to soften the blow, and how this could all end up a win-win, MAGA style. When the tariff news hit on April 3, 2025, Vietnam's government didn't mince words. Very sad and disappointed.
Ouch, right?
You can almost picture Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh shaking his head over a cup of strong Vietnamese coffee. But here's the kicker: they saw this coming and tried to get ahead of it. Before Trump's announcement, Vietnam was already tossing out olive branches like a diplomat on a mission. They slashed import taxes on U.S. goodies like LNG, cars, and ethanol, smart moves to sweeten the pot. Then, in a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, they greenlit Elon Musk's SpaceX to test-run Starlink internet. High-speed Wi-Fi from the sky. That's the kind of futuristic flex I can get behind. And the cherry on top? The PM offered to jet off to Mar-a-Lago for a round of golf with Trump. I mean, who wouldn't want to see those two hashing out trade deals over a putt and a Diet Coke? Vietnam was playing hard to keep the good vibes alive. But then bam, April 9th looms. And that 46% tariff's still coming. Cue an emergency cabinet meeting in Hanoi. The mood's tense, and you can't blame them. Textiles, footwear, furniture, electronics, the whole gang's in the line of fire. Vietnamese businesses are freaking out, and I get it. One factory owner called it devastating, worrying about orders drying up as prices spike. Picture a shoemaker in Ho Chi Minh City, staring at a pile of unsold sneakers, muttering, "Thanks, Trump." Experts are chiming in too, warning that big multinationals eyeing Vietnam as the next hotspot after China might hit pause. Less foreign investment? That's a gut punch. But me, I'm not sweating it yet. Why? Because Trump's not here to sink Vietnam, he's here to shake him up. As a Republican who'd cheer him on through a monsoon, I see this as classic tough love. Vietnam's been proactive. Those tax cuts, Starlink, the Gulf invite, it's like they're saying, we'll play ball, just don't hit us too hard. And Trump's listening, I bet. He's got exemptions for semiconductors and other goodies, showing he's not out to kill the partnership. This tariff's a wake-up call: fix the deficit, or we'll fix it for you. Vietnam's already scrambling with countermeasures, more talks with the U.S. for carve-outs, pivoting to Europe or Japan, even luring American firms to set up shop locally. Smart, scrappy, and totally in character for a country that's dodged bigger bullets than this. Here's where I get a little giddy imagining the next scene. Picture PM Chin teeing off with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the sun shining, the deals flowing. Maybe Vietnam doubles down, buying more U.S. gas or cars, heck, maybe even some Trump-branded steaks. The deficit shrinks, the tariff eases, and both sides walk away grinning. That's the Trump I know: big moves, bigger wins. Sure, businesses are nervous now, but Vietnam's tough, they'll adapt. And the naysayers whining about China swooping in? Pfft. Hanoi's not about to trade one tough partner for another. They'll diversify, sure, but they're not ditching us for Beijing over a few percentage points. So, April 2025's heating up, and I'm loving this front row seat. Vietnam's sad and disappointed, but they're not down for the count. They're plotting, negotiating, and maybe even practicing their golf swing. Trump's holding the line, keeping America first, and I'm here for it. This isn't the end of the U.S.-Vietnam story, it's the part where the stakes get high and the heroes shine. Me. I'm just a happy patriot, betting on Trump to turn this tariff tussle into a triumph. Next chapter's gonna be a doozy. Pass the coffee, and let's watch it unfold. Chapter 6. Economic Impact Assessment of the 46% Tariff. Alright, folks, it's time to crank up the drama in our U.S.-Vietnam saga. I'm back, your MAGA-loving storyteller, ready to unpack the fallout from Trump's 46% tariff bomb, set to hit on April 9, 2025. We've watched Vietnam hustle, we've cheered Trump's swagger, and now we're staring down the barrel of some serious economic ripples. Numbers are flying, industries are sweating, and I'm still grinning because, in true Trump fashion, this shake-up's got a silver lining. Let's break it down with a wink and a nod to America first. First off, this tariff's no small fry at slapping 46% on 90% of Vietnam's exports to the U.S., and that's gonna sting. Vietnamese goods, think clothes, shoes, furniture, gadgets, are about to get pricier on American shelves. Competitive edge? Poof, gone, compared to stuff from countries dodging the tariff bullet. Vietnam's exports to the U.S., their numero uno market, could take a nosedive. Look at the numbers. Trade hit $124 billion in 2023, with Vietnam shipping $114.4 billion our way while we sent back a measly $9.8 billion. That's a $104.6 billion deficit, yikes. No wonder Trump's swinging the tariff hammer. As a Republican who'd tattoo MAGA on my forehead, I'm all for it time to stop letting our wallets bleed. Vietnam's big dogs, textiles, footwear, furniture, electronics, maybe even seafood, are in for a rough ride. Textiles alone? The U.S. eats up nearly 50% of their export cash. Now, factories might see profits shrink, production slow, or worst-case shutters go up. Imagine a seamstress in Da Nang, needle paused mid-stitch, wondering if her next batch of jeans is headed for Target or the scrap heap. It's tough, no doubt. But here's where I tip my hat to Trump. He's not out to crush Vietnam, he's out to fix a lopsided deal. They've been riding high since the BTA slashed their tariffs to 3% back in 2001, while we're stuck with a deficit bigger than a Texas ranch. Over here in the U.S., it's not all roses either. Importers think Nike, American Eagle, Wayfair are about to feel the pinch. Higher costs from Vietnam mean tighter margins. And guess who's picking up the tab? Yep, us, the American shopper. That $50 pair of sneakers might jump to $60, and your new couch could cost an extra Benjamin. Big brands relying on Vietnam's factories might grumble, but I say, toughen up, buttercups. Trump's fighting for American jobs, not corporate bottom lines. A little price bump's a small price to pay when you're leveling the trade field, right, fellow patriots? Zoom out, and Vietnam's economy's got some storm clouds brewing. Experts are tossing out scary numbers. GDP growth could dip 0.5 to 1%. Foreign investors, eyeing Vietnam as the next China, might blink and look elsewhere. That $127.6 billion trade peak in 2022 could slide backward fast. The stats tell the tale. From $77.5 billion in 2019 to $124 billion in 2023, Vietnam's been flooding us with goods, ballooning that deficit from $57.9 billion to $104.6 billion. Trump saw it, said, enough, and dropped the tariff gauntlet. Me. I'm clapping like it's the 4th of July. Someone's gotta stand up for Uncle Sam. But here's the fun part, this isn't game over. It's halftime. Vietnam's already scrambling, cutting U.S. tariffs, cozying up with Starlink, offering golf dates with Trump. They're not rolling over. They're rethinking. Maybe they'll push harder into Europe or Japan, or lure more American firms to build factories on their turf. Hello, jobs both ways. Picture this, a year from now, Vietnam's buying more U.S. LNG or pickup trucks, the deficit's shrinking, and Trump's easing that 46% down. Businesses adapt, prices settle, and we're all better off. That's the Trump I know, big, bold moves that force the win. Sure, it's messy now, Hanoi's nervous, Nike's whining, but this is the shake-up we need. So, April 2025's a roller coaster, and I'm loving the ride. Vietnam's reeling, the U.S. is bracing, but I've got faith in Trump's playbook. This tariff's not the end of our tale, it's the part where the stakes spike and the heroes hustle. Me. I'm just a happy patriot, sipping my coffee, betting on a deal-maker who's never met a challenge he can't turn into gold. Next stop, a trade story with a happy ending. America first, Vietnam thriving, and Trump grinning. Who's with me for the finale? Chapter 7, Expert Analysis. Is Vietnam a friend or foe under Trump's policies? Alright, folks, we're deep into this U.S.-Vietnam saga now, and I'm still your cheerful Republican narrator, sipping my coffee and waving the MAGA flag high. We've watched Trump drop that 46% tariff bomb, seen Vietnam scramble with Gulf invites and tax cuts, and crunched the numbers on what it all means for trade. Now, let's get into the juicy stuff. What do the experts think? Is Vietnam a buddy or a bad guy in Trump's world? Spoiler, opinions are all over the map, but as a Trump fan who'd cheer him on through a trade war blindfolded, I've got my own take, and it's got a dash of humor and a whole lot of faith in the man with the golden hair. So, the tariff hits April 9, 2025, and the expert crowd's buzzing like a beehive. Some say it's pure economics. Trump's laser-focused on that $104.6 billion trade deficit from 2023, and he's swinging the tariff stick to fix it. Fair enough, right? The guy's been hollering about America first since day one, and Vietnam's been cashing in while we're left holding the bag. But then you've got the worrywarts economists and political types who see bigger stakes. They're calling it a geopolitical blunder, fretting that this hardline move could shove Vietnam into China's arms and weaken America's clout in Southeast Asia. One analyst even dubbed it worse than the worst-case scenario. Yikes. Dramatic much? Another called it a disaster for Vietnam's economy. Me. I'm just chuckling, because I know Trump's got this. Here's the rub. Vietnam's been playing nice, cutting taxes on U.S. gas and cars, rolling out the red carpet for Starlink, even offering to golf with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And yet, bam, 46% tariff. That's got folks scratching their heads. We've got this shiny, comprehensive strategic partnership from 2023: politics, security, trade, the works. So why the tough love? Some experts are whispering, is Trump picking dollars over diplomacy? They're worried this tariff's a middle finger to a friend, not a foe, and that it could unravel years of goodwill. Picture this: Vietnam, feeling snubbed, cozies up to China while the U.S. loses a key ally in the Indo-Pacific. Scary stuff if you buy the doom and gloom hype. But hold the phone, there's another camp, and I'm nodding along with them. They see this tariff as a chess move, not checkmate. Vietnam's shown they're ready to deal, call it trade diplomacy, and Trump's reciprocal tariff talk hints at room for haggling. Sure, the White House is flexing, saying, this isn't a negotiation, it's a national emergency response. Tough words, but I've seen Trump in action. He loves a good bluff, push hard, then pull back with a better deal. Remember those $12 billion trade pacts from 2017? That's the carrot. This tariff's the stick. My bet. Vietnam doubles down, maybe buys more US beef or jets, and Trump eases off once the deficit shrinks. It's not a breakup, it's a renegotiation, MAGA style. Now, let's get real. Friend or foe? To me, Vietnam's a pal, a scrappy one who's been riding our coattails a bit too long. That deficit's no joke: $57.9 billion in 2019. $104.6 billion in 2023, and Trump's right to call foul. As a Republican who'd follow him to the moon, I see this as genius. Protect American workers, level the field, and keep the partnership intact. The China scare? Overblown. Vietnam's been dodging Beijing's shadow forever. Hey, not about to jump ship over a tariff spat. And the disaster talk? Vietnam's tough, they'll pivot, diversify, and come out swinging. Trump's not burning bridges. He's building him stronger, just with better terms. So, April 2025's in full swing, and the experts are duking it out.
Me.
I'm grinning, picturing Trump and PM Chin on the green, sealing a deal over a handshake and a laugh. This tariff's a plot twist, not the endgame. Vietnam's a friend maybe a little too comfy, and Trump's the wake-up call they didn't know they needed. Next chapter? A fairer trade dance, with both sides winning. That's the Trump I'm rooting for, bold, brash, and brilliant. Pass the coffee. Folks, this story's far from over. Chapter 8. Trump's trade policy towards Vietnam in comparison. Alright, folks, we're rolling right along in this U.S.-Vietnam trade epic, and I'm still your chipper Republican narrator, coffee in hand and MAGA hat on tight. We've covered the tariff shock, Vietnam scramble, and the expert squabbles. Now let's zoom out and see how Trump's trade game with Vietnam stacks up against the past and the rest of the world. Spoiler, it's a wild departure, and as a Trump fan who'd cheer him through a tariff tornado, I'm here to break it down with a grin and a nod to the guy who's rewriting the playbook. Let's rewind a bit. Before Trump, U.S. presidents treated Vietnam like a buddy they wanted to fatten up with trade and investment, part of that big, let's all get along strategy in Asia. Think Clinton lifting the embargo in '94, Bush pushing the BTA in 2001, Obama cozying up with TPP dreams, soft hands, open wallets. Even Trump's first term kept it chill with Vietnam. Sure, he slapped global steel and aluminum tariffs in 2018, Vietnam felt a pinch. But nothing like this 46% monster hitting 90% of their exports on April 9, 2025. Back then, he was too busy wrestling China to care much about Hanoi.
Now,
it's a whole new ballgame. Trump's flipped the script, zeroing in on that $104.6 billion deficit from 2023 like a hawk. Past presidents wanted hugs. Trump's handing out tough love, and I'm loving every second of it. This 46% tariff? It's a beast, one of the heftiest Trumps thrown out there. Check the lineup. China's getting hammered with 34 to 54%, depending on who's counting. The EU's at 20%, Japan's at 24%, South Korea's at 25%, India's at 26%, Taiwan's at 32%, Thailand's at 36%. Then you've got Vietnam at 46%, with Cambodia 49%, and Laos 48%, rounding out the top. Yowza, Vietnam's near the tippy top, rubbing shoulders with the likes of Phnom Penh and Vientiane. It's not random, though Trump's got a pattern. Big trade surpluses with the U.S. get big tariffs. China's the poster child, but Vietnam's caught his eye now, and he's not messing around. As a Republican who'd follow him into a trade war blindfolded, I say it's about time fair's fair, right? Here's the twist that makes this Vietnam story spicy. They've become the hot new kid on the manufacturing block, stepping in as China's understudy. Companies fleeing Beijing's tariffs have been eyeing Hanoi, and Vietnam's been soaking it up: textiles, electronics, you name it. But Trump's sniffing something fishy: transshipment. Word on the street is China's sneaking goods through Vietnam to dodge U.S. tariffs, slap a Made in Vietnam label on it. And presto, no 54% hit. Trump's team's calling Vietnam a backdoor for Chinese goods. And that's got his hackles up. Is it true? Maybe, maybe not, but it's a darn good excuse to crank the tariff dial to 46%.
me.
I'm chuckling, picturing Trump squinting at a shipping manifest, muttering, "Not on my watch." Compared to the old days, this is night and day. Past administrations would have wagged a finger, maybe pushed for talks. Trump's swinging a sledgehammer. The EU gets a slap on the wrist at 20%. Japan and Korea hover in the 20s. But Vietnam? They're in the big leagues with 46%. It's not just about the deficit. It's a message: play fair or pay up. And I'm all in. America's been the world's piggy bank too long. Sure, Vietnam's crying foul, but they've got options: cut a deal, buy more U.S. stuff, prove they're not China's errand boy. Trump's not here to sink him. He's here to shake him into a better deal. So, April 2025's heating up, and Trump's trade policy's a whole new beast. Vietnam's in the hot seat, but as I sip my coffee, I'm grinning. This isn't your grandpa's diplomacy, it's bold, brash, and pure Trump. Past presidents played nice. He's playing to win. Next chapter? Maybe Vietnam tees up with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and that 46% turns into a handshake. That's the MAGA magic I'm betting on tough today, triumphant tomorrow. Pass the popcorn, this ride's just getting good. Chapter 9. Conclusion and Future Outlook. We've reached the grand finale, or at least a pit stop in this U.S.-Vietnam trade saga, and I'm still your chipper Republican narrator, coffee cup raised and MAGA pride intact. Trump's 46% tariff bomb, set to land on April 9, 2025, has shaken things up, and now it's time to wrap this tale with a bow and peek at what's next. As a Trump fan who'd cheer him on through a trade apocalypse, I'm here to keep it light, civil, and sprinkled with a bit of humor, all while rooting for the guy who's put America first back on the map. Let's recap the climax. That 46% tariff on 90% of Vietnam's exports is a game-changer, no doubt about it. Decades of cozying up, think Clinton's embargo lift, the BTA, that shiny 2023 comprehensive strategic partnership could take a hit. Trump's America First crusade, laser-focused on slashing that $104.6 billion deficit from 2023, has flipped the script. Vietnam's gone from a rising star partner to a trade rival in the blink of an eye, and folks are buzzing. Will this undo years of progress? Maybe, if you're a glass-half-empty type. Me. I see it as a bold reset, a chance to rewrite the rules for the better. Trump's not here to torch bridges, he's just making sure they're built on solid ground. Looking ahead, the road's foggy, but I'm betting on a wild ride. More trade moves from Trump? Don't count him out, he's got a knack for keeping folks on their toes. Vietnam's already scrambling, cutting U.S. taxes, flirting with Starlink, and tossing out golf invites. Future talks are the key, and I can almost picture it. Trump and Pham Minh Chinh teeing off at Mar-a-Lago, hashing out a deal over a laugh and a handshake. The tariff's a big stick, but it's not the end game, it's the opener. Long term, yeah, trade might dip, and that strategic partnership could feel the strain. But Vietnam's scrappy, they'll adapt, and Trump's savvy, he'll pivot when the time's right. Zoom out to the Indo-Pacific, and the stakes get even juicier. This tariff could ripple through global supply chains, tweak regional trade vibes, and shuffle the U.S.-China power dance. Some fret Vietnam might lean harder on China economically, despite their strategic squabbles. Imagine Hanoi and Beijing swapping trade tips over tea. Awkward, right? But I'm not sweating it. Vietnam's been dodging China's shadow for ages, they're not about to trade one tough partner for another over a tariff spat. Instead, they'll diversify, cozy up to Europe or Japan, and keep their options open. That's the grit I admire, and it's why I think they'll weather this storm. So, here's my rosy outlook, MAGA style. By 2026, Vietnam's buying more U.S. goods, maybe some pickup trucks or Iowa corn, and that deficit's down to, say, $70 billion. Trump, with a grin, dials the tariff back to 20%, American jobs perk up, and Vietnam's still a pal, just on fairer terms. The partnership doesn't just survive, it thrives, tougher and smarter. Sure, the worrywarts see China lurking or supply chains wobbling, but I see a win-win brewing. Trump's not wrecking this, he's reshaping it, and I'm here for it. As April 2025 winds down, I'm sipping my coffee, grinning at the chaos and the promise. This tariff's a plot twist, not the credits rolling. Vietnam's a friend getting a reality check, and Trump's the guy with the guts to deliver it. What's next? A trade tale where both sides shine prosperity, fairness, and a little Trump swagger. That's the ending I'm rooting for, and I've got a hunch it's coming. Thanks for riding along, folks. Next chapter's gonna be a hoot. And that's a wrap on our tale of trade, tariffs, and triumph between Trump and Vietnam. We hope you've enjoyed this wild ride through history, economics, and a little bit of humor, all while picking up some English along the way. If you loved this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop a comment below. Tell us what you think about Trump's big move or what story you'd like us to tackle next. Oh, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button so you never miss an adventure on Story-Driven English. Thanks for joining us, folks. See you in the next story. Bye for now.